Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance on the Central Coast. Today, joined by Tommy Gong. He is the Registrar Recorder in San Luis Obispo County, and I love when he brings memorabilia. He's a nerd like me. He loves everything election-oriented. Today, he brings us an actual ballot from the first South African election after apartheid.
Yes.
What's so interesting, Mr. Gong, about this is that as you see, they have the pictures of the candidates. Why are they showing the pictures of the candidates?
Yes, what I've been told is, the literacy rate of South Africa was, pretty low, and so instead of just giving the names of the candidates, they would actually have the pictures so that voters would be familiar with the candidate.
I get it. And sure enough, we see African National Congress, and here is none other than Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
And I know that there were a good number of Americans who traveled to South Africa to help with those elections. They were truly historic.
Yes, exactly.
In so many ways.
In so many ways, when a nation is going to have its first democratic election,
right.
Many times they'll ask for assistance. And so, from what I understand, many registrars from the country went to South Africa to assist in
right.
In organizing, conducting the election, as well as observing the operations.
And it's just interesting to see that there are the pictures and the logos of the various parties. When we think about our country's history and how we, in prior centuries would try to minimize voting by demanding literacy tests, for example.
Yes.
We would never have had this. But now we have ballots that are multilingual.
Yes.
And I guess you probably do need to read to vote in America, but you don't have a test to see if you can read.
Right, exactly.
How'd you find this ballot?
Oh,
Yeah.
I had some, when I first started in elections, my supervisor at the time had a copy, and it was like, oh, I have to get one of these.
Right, yeah, I love this stuff. Well, thank you for bringing this. We appreciate it. When you come back, we'll have you bring more memorabilia. Hopefully you have more. I want to talk about the November election,
Yes.
also historic, and
Yes.
for many throughout the nation with an unexpected result on the presidential level. But we're into the administration now. But let's go back to San Luis Obispo County and see what we can learn about the 2016 election.
Yes.
An on-year election.
Yes.
What can you tell us about voter turnout back in 2016?
Well, it was a record-setting election. We had never had as many people register to vote.
Wow.
By far, we shattered the record of 161,000. We had 168,000 people registered to vote. It was unprecedented.
Sure.
The number of people, and as well as the turnout. So we had 83% turnout.
83%. I mean, that is close to perfection when you consider, the American standards. I mean, how many counties do you know broke 80%?
There are a few other counties in the state who do have who we compete with in terms of voter turnout. But it's really kind of a hallmark of our democracy,
Sure.
really, of the number of people who are eligible, who are registered to vote, as well as those who do actually vote.
And what I'm sure you will note as a growing trend is the number of voters that choose to vote other than at the polling place.
Absolutely.
Over 70% in
Yes.
November in SLO County did not vote at the polling
At the
location.
polls, exactly.
Where they vote.
Oh, they're voting by mail. Absolutely, they're voting by mail.
Which is a trend that continues to grow in California.
Yes.
While other states we know are making it a little more difficult to vote,
Right.
we're trying to make it as easy as possible
Yes.
to vote.
Yes, the whole, in California, it started in 2002, where a voter could actually request to be a permanent
Right.
vote by mail voter. And
I am. I'm permanent.
As soon as that started, the number started to swell each and every year. They started to swell. And so we're at a point now where we're at basically 70% of our voters are vote by mail.
I also want to talk about a model that has been adopted in other states. I think Colorado may have it.
Yes.
And it's known as a vote center model.
Yes.
Explain what a vote center is before we talk about its application in California.
Yes. So a vote center is a voting location where a voter can go to. If they go there, regardless of where they live in the county, they'd be entitled to vote on the ballot based on where they live.
So the vote center would have ballots for all the precincts
For all
possible.
of the precincts, yes,
Wow.
exactly.
That's
so regardless,
a task.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
it is. But technology brings it to a point where you could do a ballot on demand printing, where they show up at the counter, and you find out what precinct they reside in, and then you can just print that ballot on demand and not have any waste, for example.
So let's talk about the potential applicability in California for voting centers. I understand in 2018, 14 of the 58 counties are permitted to pilot vote centers. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yes, exactly.
And SLO is one of them.
Yes, we are.
So tell us about what that would look like.
Yeah, so SB 450 was signed into a law last year, which allows the 14 counties to be pilot counties. San Luis Obispo is one of them, enabling us to utilize vote centers as our election model, I like to call it.
And so I know that we're still looking at the possibilities, but under SB 450 or under regulations you may set, would it be vote centers exclusively, or would we have our precinct locations as well?
Yeah, it would actually be vote centers exclusively. The basic premise, as I like to describe it, is it's a vote by mail / vote center election model. So from the 29 days before the election, not just the permanent vote by mail voters receive ballots in the mail, but every voter would actually receive a ballot in the mail.
Oh, really?
And then the use of the vote center is only really for those who lost their ballot, need a replacement ballot.
Oregon has pure vote by mail elections, am I right?
Oregon has pure vote by mail voting.
For every election?
Yes. They might have a few drop-off locations, but this is really set so that we would reduce our polling places, for example, down to vote centers from 76 polling places down to 20 locations.
And what do you think of that? Let me make it more broad because I don't want you to speculate, SLO's a semi-rural county.
Yes.
And so, that presents challenges when you're trying to go down from 75-ish to 20.
Right.
Talk to us through that challenge.
So in fact, in the legislation, there's a lot of requirements that's asking us how we will determine those vote center locations, including the voting patterns, those who voted more so at the polling places than vote by mail, for example. In that case, we would need to concentrate a little more heavier there.
I understand.
And then also again back to the all vote by mail, that's going to offset obviously some of those who went to the polls in the past.
Right.
So what we're looking at is where we had 70% of our voters voting vote by mail and only 30% voting at the polls, we still had to prepare our polling places as if 100% were going to show up there. So this actually kind of reflects the voting trends of what's taking place and being able to allow us to be more efficient in our operation.
But in a lot of ways, look, you may live in Atascadero and you work in San Luis Obispo, or you live in Grover Beach and you work in, I don't know, Pismo Beach. And so,
and that's why the vote center is so perfect for them, because they weren't able to get to their home precinct, and now they can go to that location in the city where they work, and they'd be able to have the exact ballot that they are entitled to.
If San Luis Obispo County adopts this model, we don't know that for sure.
Right.
June and November?
Yes, it would be June and November.
That's significant. I mean, 2018 it's a midterm election.
Yes.
Not a presidential, but look, we're going to have statewide races, countywide races. I mean, this is a big change if it happens.
Oh, yes, definitely. And it's a good time to consider doing the pilot in 2018 to see, because then it wouldn't be inundated with the turnout that we would expect from the next presidential.
I want to thank you for joining us, and thanks for bringing this piece of memorabilia. He is Tommy Gong, Register Recorder in San Luis Obispo. I'm Brad Pomerance. It's Local Edition.